All right, guys, back on Southeastern 14 with Max Barr. We continue previewing the action on Saturday in SEC basketball as we are going to look at the matchup between Houston and Texas A&M. A very fun kind of in-state matchup here between these two teams. Two very good teams, high expectations, and we will preview it. But before we do that, let's tell you about our friends at Bet Online, as we always do here at Southeastern 14. All the major sports in action this week. And remember, the college football playoffs getting ready to begin here soon. Bowl season, you got all kinds of stuff, including college basketball, as you know. So if you want to bet on any of these games that we're talking about, or bet on any of the other games in the major sports, you can do that at Bet Online, your number one destination for all your sports wagering info, including news for pro football, NBA, upcoming fights, NHL games. They've got it all. So head on over to the website today. It's betonline.ag to get into the action and see all the updated odds for the week. Remember, use that promo code, guys, BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online where the game starts. All right, Max, Houston and Texas A&M. This one will be played at the Toyota Center in Houston, so probably a good Houston crowd, I would say. A nice little contingent there for a big matchup between these two teams. I mean, it continues the theme that we talked about, Max, with Texas A&M. Man, the schedule. You want to talk about a night and day in terms of non-conference schedule last season to this season. Big step up for the Aggies, and currently they're at 7-3 on the season. 3 losses to Florida Atlantic, Virginia, and Memphis, which you will not be that upset if those are your only 3 losses. Kind of heading into this game, those are 3 very good teams. We know they've got wins over Iowa State and Ohio State as well. So the Aggies head in finally at full strength, maybe it seems. Getting Tyrece Radford back, significant. We talked about that over the past several weeks. Kind of, he could have been the difference maker maybe in that game of Virginia and such. But, even getting him back against Memphis, the Aggies came up short, did not shoot the ball well at all in that game. We mentioned it. Wade Taylor and Radford went 0 of 14 from 3. Aggies overall went 6 of 33 from 3 in that game. But offensively, could be some challenges, Max, against this Houston team, as we know, pretty good on defense.
Pretty good is one way to put it. Number 1 in the country. Good.
Good.
Yeah, they're all right. Anticipated line for this game, expect about 2 to 3 possession favorite for Houston, somewhere from 6 to 8 probably. This is called a semi away for Texas A&M. So it's not quite the neutral floor. I bet it's going to be heavy Houston, like you said. Just a quick rundown on how these teams play. Both very slow tempos. Neither team on either offense or defensive tempo is in the top 280 in the country. So both sides are going to be very, very slow in running their half-court offense. A lot of these teams are pretty similar in the way that they really lean on their offensive rebounding. Both teams are top 4 in the nation in offensive rebounding percentage. They will crush the glass. Okay. But the biggest difference that I've noticed here between these two teams is strength of schedule. And that was a big piece of what was it? It was Clemson against TCU, not an SEC game, but a similar strength of schedule discrepancy where Clemson had such a stronger strength of schedule than TCU, and it ended up showing a little bit. Texas A&M 13th in the country, strength of schedule. Okay, they've played 6 top 100 opponents, especially, and it's been really tough here last few games. 4 of Texas A&M's last 5 games have played against a top 35 team. Okay, so they've gone through a gauntlet, and it's not getting easier here. But then you look at the flip side, look at Houston, strength of schedule 256th. They've played 3 top 100 opponents. Okay, Utah and Dayton were 2 of them, and that was at a neutral floor at the Charleston Classic, South Carolina. And they played at Xavier, where they won by 6 and didn't cover. No opponents in the top 35. So strength of schedule, definitely you have the more battle-tested team with Texas A&M, if you want to look at it that way. But like you said with the defense, Houston is very good on that side of the ball. Number 1, actually, in the whole nation. Not Tennessee anymore. And one of the reasons why is they're the number 1 turnover forcing defense in the country. Okay, they will. You're not going to get anything easy. It's almost like every single catch is going to be contested. Every pass, every dribble drive, everything is going to have few hands swiping at it, which is not ideal for a team without a lot of spacing, right? So just looking at that initial breakdown, Blake, I think it's going to be a slow, grinding rock fight without not a lot of perimeter play, a lot of offensive rebounds and whatnot. It's just going to be a scrap, is what I'm seeing.
Only 2 teams have scored over 55 points against Houston this season.
Oh,
That was Utah, who scored 66. Xavier scored 60. Only 2 teams have scored more than 55 points against this Houston team. So if you're an A&M fan and you're looking at like game similarities, very simple. This is a Virginia type game to me. And I don't mean Houston is Virginia. I'm saying if you're A&M and you're looking at games that have already been played this season and you're trying to find the most similar comparison, right? It is the Virginia game. 59-47, A&M lost that game. We mentioned they were without Tyrece Radford in that one. Could have made a difference, I think, for sure, having another ball handler against that team. He's back here for this one, and it's a good thing because you need another ball handler against Houston. And I think this is one where I think that's it, Max. Like A&M not really. I know I'm already seeing on the side of my screen here that I'm having some video issues, so I apologize, guys. But A&M can have some offensive issues in this game. That's the comparison we're going to use for this. But A&M gets nothing from the 3-point line essentially. They're shooting 28.3% three, and they're a team that has to get a lot of what they do inside the arc. Now that's not a bad thing, right? Because I'm looking at what Houston gives up there, and that's pretty much where the majority of the points have come from against Houston for other teams. So, yeah, I mean, this is going to be a game where each team is going to value the basketball. They're going to, try to really make it a grind, and I think it works in the advantage of both teams because this is how they want to play. Like you said, the one thing that worries me a little bit here, even though A&M's been good at taking care of the ball, Houston just forces, the percentage of offensive possessions that they force turnovers on is pretty good. I'm just going to keep saying pretty good. Number one in the nation, by the way, at that category.
Insane.
So, like, they are top 5 in so many defensive categories that it is just ridiculous to look at. But like you said, schedule-wise, A&M's played the tougher schedule, and so they're a little bit more prepared, perhaps, just on the surface of these two teams and what they played this season. But this is still, again, these are two teams that will get some second chance opportunities on offense. And so I just think it's a tough setup for A&M from the offensive standpoint. I kind of want to see how they come out and play, again, in what feels like a Virginia type game with Radford on the floor in this one.
I almost start to get the feeling that I don't want to say it's the only path of victory for A&M, but probably the most likely, the easiest path to victory is just going to be Wade Taylor and Tyrece Radford putting their head down, trying to get to the rim and trying to force contact. Because that is what, if you're looking at anything from this Houston defense, they do give up some free throw attempts. Okay, with their aggressive and physical play, they do give up some free throw attempts. And if there's someone that knows how to get to the line, it's Wade Taylor. So if we might see a 25 plus point game from Wade Taylor where he's like 11 of 12 from the free throw line, and in a slow, low possession game, that could play a big factor. But you look at the flip side for Houston, and Houston's just got a bit more of an offensive availability from their bench and whatnot. I mean, you look at the starting guys: Shed, Emmanuel Sharp, LJ Cryer, Damian Dunn. I mean, Arsenault. All these guys can go and get their own. But then you got Ramon Walker coming off the bench, Malik Wilson. I mean, they go deep. Houston does, like Kelvin Sampson teams usually do. So do I think all those top 5 defensive categories for Houston are a little bit blown up because of the opponents? Yes, probably. Are they completely fraud because of the opponents? No, this defense is nasty. So, I mean, it's hard to split these two teams up. I think they play very similarly. I think if we're talking about like whose guy is going to have a game, whose game is it? For me, with Texas A&M, it might be Anderson Garcia with those offensive rebounds. If he has one of those 13, 14, 15 rebound nights, and gets a few extra possessions for A&M, might be the difference in a slow game like this. So Oh, man, it's tough to make a pick on this game. If I'm picking against the spread and it's going to be an 8-point spread, something like that, I'll probably take the points with A&M because I
Oh
think this
yeah,
game
because the lower
is
possessions and
lower
yeah, I
possession
think
game. I
yeah.
think it's going to be gross. But if I'm picking a team to win, like I think we know where we're going to be leaning on this one.
Yeah, I'm going Houston.
Yeah,
Again, I think there's an impressive part of this too, where they have just dominated teams that they
that's
should
hard to
dominate.
do, as we've seen.
Yeah, like I mean, like we said, just how many the amount of points they've given up. Like it is just pure domination against teams that they are better than, and they have just come out and decimated them with the way they play on defense. And so, yeah, I'm going to go Houston here too. And like we said, it's not a true road game, but there will be a lot of Houston fans there, just as I'm sure there will be a nice A&M contingent, but a lot of Houston fans, I think, for this one. And so, I'm just curious again, getting the duo of Taylor and Radford back playing more games together, even though played I know last year together and all that, but kind of getting Radford back in the groove, I think, is going to be important. And it feels like one of those games where maybe it's like, hey, maybe it's like the Michael Jordan meme, right? Like I'm back. Like
Yep.
maybe this is that game afterwards where we got like a 35-point stat line for Tyrece Radford and the guy's officially back. But um, if he does have 35 points, remember that's going to be only 20 fewer than most teams have scored against Houston this season. So it's going to be a challenge to do that. But yeah, I want to see what A&M does offensively here. And I don't know that I don't know. I trust anybody against Houston offensively right now, the way they're playing defense. And I know the schedule difference is what it's interesting to me here to see how this game kind of unfolds. If you get A&M kind of in those close possession type games, they've been in some of those to this point against good teams. And, some of them have not went their way, some of them have. But yeah, I would look if A&M was the home team here, may take a chance on saying I think A&M can kind of break through and get this one, but I probably need to see a little more from them offensively with Radford back on the floor and see how they get their offense. Maybe more importantly, because I could see this being a game where Kelvin Sampson was like, "All right, guys, like nobody take a foot outside the paint. Make these guys shoot 33s because if that happens, A&M's in trouble." Um, maybe that's how they play it, but yeah, I'm gonna lean towards Houston here too.
Yep. I am in agreement. I'm going to take Houston to win, but I'm telling you guys, if that spread
Yeah.
opens up at 3 possessions or more, I'll call it. Okay. 3 possessions or more, 7.5, maybe the cutoff. Taking those points with A&M, I think this thing's going to be very slow. So, yeah.
I mean, I will say to finish with this, like I think never underestimate what a Wade Taylor could do for you in a game like this. Like
Right.
because yeah, he is that good. We saw him go for 35 against FAU. Now, but that's the difference too, right? Like why did they lose the games against Virginia and Memphis? Well, he didn't necessarily have his best game in those two. And I think
Right.
the turnovers have been something we talked about, right? But I think that's where having Radford back, it doesn't put as much pressure on him, you know, in the turnover
True.
department, So that is one too. Where I mean, really look at it. I mean, the turnover numbers have not been great, but I think having him back in the mix, but it's against a team like this that forces so many turnovers. And remember, Memphis. I don't remember how many Memphis forced against A&M. I think A&M had 12 in that game. Taylor had 5 of those. But yeah, I think that's it. You got to take care of the ball. Got to take
I'll tell
advantage of
you
your
what, Blake.
opportunities. Yeah. So
I'll tell you what. If there's a team or if there's 2 guys that can be out of the flow and then have a very tough game where they have to jump back into it, it's Boots and Taylor, So tough task here, but doable with the talent that A&M has at the guard position. So we'll see.
we'll see. We'll have it all covered here at Southeastern 14. Again, guys, if you want to check out all of our other game previews for a huge weekend in SEC basketball, you can do that by hitting the subscribe button, hit the like button as well. All of our SEC football stuff, getting you ready for bowl season. So if you're a Texas A&M fan, we'll have a bowl preview coming up here soon enough, probably next week sometime for the Oklahoma State game. So a lot of fun stuff over here on the channel. So hit that subscribe button as always. And we appreciate you guys, as always, for watching. And we'll talk to you again here soon at Southeastern 14, presented by Bet Online.